The most terrifying madness is the one that appears as normality. Michel Foucault. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. You wake up, and the first thing you touch is your phone. Notifications, messages, missed calls, endless updates. Before you even open your eyes fully, the world is already inside your head. The noise begins the moment you wake up and follows you until you fall asleep. Exhausted but restless, you scroll through your feed, seeing perfect lives, perfect bodies, perfect smiles. Everyone seems happier, more successful, more fulfilled than you. And deep inside, there's a silent voice whispering, something is wrong, but you keep scrolling. You feel empty, but you can't stop. At work, you struggle to focus. Your mind jumps from task to task, from message to notification. Concentration lasts for a few seconds before your attention is hijacked again. You try to read, to think, to just sit still, but your brain refuses to slow down. It craves more stimulation, more information, more noise. Even in moments of rest, your hand reaches for the phone. In cafes, on walks, even in the bathroom, the screen is always there, always waiting, always pulling you back into the stream of endless content. You feel like you're losing control, but you convince yourself it's normal because everyone else is doing the same. You can't remember the last time you had a deep conversation without checking your phone. You can't recall when you last sat in silence without feeling anxious. Your mind is restless, your emotions are flat, you laugh less, you feel less, and sometimes you wonder if you're even alive or just existing in some automated loop. The truth is painful. You are not weak, you are not broken, you are living in the middle of a psychological epidemic, one that most people refuse to acknowledge, one that doesn't spread through air or touch, but through screens, through the very device you hold in your hand right now. This is not just your story. This is the silent suffering of millions. Anxiety, depression, burnout, loneliness. These are no longer rare conditions. They have become the default state of modern existence. And yet, we pretend everything is fine. We post smiling photos. We share motivational quotes. We pretend to be okay while we quietly fall apart inside. This epidemic feeds on silence. It thrives because we don't talk about it, because admitting the problem feels like admitting failure. But it's not your fault. You were never taught how to survive in this digital storm. You were thrown into it without warning, without preparation, without tools. You've done what everyone else has done. You reached for comfort, for connection, for distraction. But what was sold as freedom became a cage. What was promised as progress became a slow erosion of your inner world. By the end of this journey, you will see why your pain is not weakness, why feeling lost is not failure, and why the very device that steals your peace can become the key to reclaiming your life, if you are ready to face the truth. At the dawn of the 2000s, everything seemed simple. Mobile phones were still just tools, devices to call, to text, to check the time. The idea of carrying the entire world inside your pocket didn't exist yet. We still lived in the physical world, where conversations happened face to face, where boredom still existed, where the mind could rest. But then, the shift began. The first smartphones appeared. Suddenly, you could browse the internet, check your email, and even capture photos anytime, anywhere. At first, it was exciting. It felt like freedom, like control. The world was opening up. Then came social media, platforms that promise to connect us, to bring us closer, to make the world smaller. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, names that would soon reshape human behavior in ways nobody fully anticipated. What started as innocent sharing quickly turned into a race for attention. The first stage of the epidemic was born, the hijacking of attention. Social media discovered something powerful. The more time you spent on their platforms, the more money they made. Attention became the most valuable currency. The algorithms were designed to keep you engaged, to pull you back in, to never let you go. Notifications, likes, comments, small hits of dopamine. Each ping felt like a reward. Your brain, wired for survival, started craving these tiny bursts of validation. Over time, this created new patterns in your mind. The need to check, to refresh, to scroll endlessly became automatic. The addiction was subtle. You didn't feel trapped. You felt connected. You felt informed. You felt part of something bigger. But beneath the surface, the foundations of your mental stability were beginning to crack. The real world started to lose its color. Conversations felt dull compared to the constant stimulation of your feed. Silence became uncomfortable. Waiting, even for a few moments, triggered anxiety. You reached for your phone in every gap of time. At traffic lights, in lines, before sleep, during meals. Attention span began to shrink. Studies started to show that people struggled to focus for more than a few seconds. The brain, overloaded with constant stimulation, could no longer sustain deep thought or prolonged concentration. This was the birth of the first layer of the epidemic, the destruction of presence. We stopped being present in our own lives. Our attention was fragmented, our minds restless. Moments that once carried meaning became background noise to the endless scroll. The more connected we became online, the more disconnected we became from ourselves. It was still early. Most people didn't notice the danger. The convenience was too seductive. The costs were invisible, but the machine was already running. And what started as a tool was quietly becoming a trap. The second stage of the epidemic began as social media platforms discovered something far more dangerous than simple engagement. They found how to manipulate the very chemistry of the human brain. What once were platforms for sharing life moments became engineered addiction machines. Every like, every comment, every notification triggered a release of dopamine, the same chemical involved in drug addiction. Your brain, designed to seek pleasure and avoid discomfort, adapted quickly. It craved these small rewards, pulling you back to your screen again and again. The more you engaged, the stronger the cycle became. And because the rewards were unpredictable, your brain stayed locked in a state of anticipation, always wondering what might appear next. This unpredictability made the habit even more powerful than consistent rewards. You no longer controlled your phone controlled your neurochemistry. At first, it seemed harmless. What damage could a few notifications cause? But over time, researchers began to see the cracks widening. Studies showed sharp increases in anxiety, depression, and sleep disorders. Teenagers, exposed to social media at earlier and earlier ages, reported record levels of loneliness, body image issues, and suicidal thoughts. Adults were not immune. Relationships suffered as people spent more time on their devices than engaging with those physically present. Marriages, friendships, and even parent-child bonds weakened under the constant pull of digital attention. People stopped looking into each other's eyes. Conversations became half-hearted, distracted by vibrating phones demanding attention. The platform designers knew exactly what they were doing. They hired neuroscientists, behavioral psychologists, and addiction specialists to optimize every feature. The endless scroll, autoplay videos, tailored content feeds, all designed to hijack the most primitive parts of your brain. You were not making conscious choices. Your behavior was being shaped without your permission. The platforms learned your preferences, your fears, your desires, even your insecurities. Algorithms tracked every click, every pause, every swipe, building psychological profiles far more detailed than even you knew about yourself. And then came the false sense of connection, the illusion that you were part of something larger, more meaningful. But behind the curated posts and polished images, loneliness deepened. Likes replaced genuine affirmation. Virtual friends replaced real relationships. Validation came in numbers, not in touch, voice, or presence. Over time, the ability to tolerate boredom disappeared. Every empty moment demanded a distraction. Even brief pauses became uncomfortable. You scrolled while eating, while talking, while walking, while lying in bed at night. The brain, once capable of deep thought and reflection, became addicted to shallow stimulation. This is the second layer of the epidemic, the corrosion of emotional resilience. You lost the ability to sit with discomfort, to process emotions naturally. The phone became the escape, the numbing agent, the shield from pain. But emotions unprocessed do not disappear. They fester. Anxiety grows, depression deepens, anger simmers. The longer you avoid your inner world, the more fragile your mental state becomes. And all the while, the device that promised freedom quietly tightened its grip around your mind. The third stage of the epidemic arrived quietly, but with devastating precision. The platforms no longer simply responded to your behavior, they began to predict and shape it. Algorithms became sophisticated, using artificial intelligence to analyze every detail of your digital life. They knew what you liked, feared, envied, and desired. Every search, like, pause, and scroll fed into vast data centers, constructing an exact psychological profile. These algorithms didn't just show you content. They crafted a digital environment designed to keep you inside their ecosystem for as long as possible. They learned to trigger your emotions, to amplify your biases, to manipulate your attention with surgical accuracy. This personalization created echo chambers where your beliefs were constantly reinforced, and opposing views were filtered out. The more time you spent inside your customized feed, the more extreme your perspectives became. Nuance disappeared. Everything turned into black or white, good or evil, us versus them. Societies fractured as polarization grew. Politics, culture, and even science became battlegrounds of manipulated perceptions. People no longer debated ideas. They attacked each other, fueled by algorithm-driven outrage. The algorithms exploited human tribal instincts, turning disagreement into hostility, curiosity into dogma, and dialogue into war. But it went even deeper. These platforms were not neutral. They sold your data to advertisers, corporations, political campaigns, and even foreign powers. Your emotions, fears, and vulnerabilities became commodities. Entire industries emerged to exploit the information harvested from your behavior. You were no longer the customer. You became the product. Your attention was bought and sold in markets you never saw. Your privacy eroded completely, yet you felt in control because the illusion of choice remained. You selected what to watch, but the options you were given were carefully curated to serve the interests of those who profited from your engagement. As the algorithms improved, they tapped into more primal emotions: fear, anger, envy, and outrage drove higher engagement than joy or contentment. The platforms learned that negative emotions kept users scrolling longer, clicking more, and sharing faster. The more emotionally charged the content, the more addictive it became. Gradually, your nervous system adapted to constant stimulation, to permanent low-level anxiety, to emotional volatility. Calm and peace began to feel foreign. Silence became unbearable. Emotional stability eroded under the constant pressure of manipulated highs and lows. This is the third layer of the epidemic, the hijacking of your emotional architecture. You were no longer reacting to reality, but to a distorted, amplified version of it designed to exploit your deepest instincts. The algorithms didn't care about your well-being. They cared about your attention, and the longer you remained trapped, the more power they gained over your mind, your emotions, and your decisions. What began as convenience had now evolved into full-scale psychological warfare, a battle for your inner world fought silently through the screen you hold in your hand. As the psychological layers deepened, the physical consequences emerged. The endless interaction with smartphones was not limited to the mind, it infiltrated the body. The blue light emitted by screens disrupted circadian rhythms, making it harder to fall asleep and reducing sleep quality. Sleep deprivation became chronic, leading to hormonal imbalances, weakened immune function, and increased vulnerability to anxiety and depression. The body, deprived of rest, entered a state of constant low-level stress, silently eroding health. Posture suffered as heads tilted forward, necks strained, and spines curved unnaturally for hours every day. Text neck became a common condition, leading to chronic pain in the neck, shoulders, and back. Eyes strained from prolonged screen exposure, resulting in headaches, blurred vision, and long-term damage to ocular muscles. The body, designed for movement and interaction with the physical world, was now confined to static positions, its natural rhythms suppressed by endless digital fixation. Beyond the physical strain, emotional health continued to deteriorate. Social media constantly presented idealized versions of others' lives, fueling envy, inadequacy, and self-comparison. People judged their self-worth against carefully curated snapshots, forgetting that real life includes flaws, failures, and imperfections. The inability to match these illusions bred feelings of failure, even among those who were objectively successful. Confidence eroded. Self-esteem withered. The internal dialogue became increasingly self-critical and punitive. Loneliness, paradoxically, grew in a hyper-connected world. Digital interactions replaced face-to-face conversations. The depth of human connection was sacrificed for the convenience of instant messaging and shallow interactions. Physical touch, eye contact, and genuine empathy diminished, leaving a void that technology could not fill. Emotional numbness spread as individuals struggled to feel present in their own lives. Even surrounded by people, many felt isolated, disconnected from both others and themselves. This stage of the epidemic marked the disintegration of resilience. The body weakened, the mind fragmented, and the soul starved for authentic connection. The cumulative weight of constant stimulation, physical deterioration, and emotional emptiness created a fragile existence where exhaustion became the norm. Many turned to medications, stimulants, or further digital distractions to cope, perpetuating the cycle of dependency. The devices promised comfort, but delivered quiet, invisible collapse. The most painful truth is not that the technology forced itself upon you, but that you willingly surrendered to it. No one made you pick up your phone hundreds of times a day. No one chained your attention to endless scrolling. The trap was designed with precision, but the decision to enter it was always yours. The platforms offered convenience, entertainment, and connection, but they took something far more valuable in return: your autonomy. What began as choice slowly turned into compulsion. You traded moments of discomfort for instant distraction, depth for convenience, presence for stimulation. The addiction masked itself as normal behavior. You justified the hours spent online as necessary for work, for staying informed, for maintaining relationships. But beneath those justifications was fear. Fear of missing out, of silence, of being alone with your thoughts. The smartphone became the shield against facing your inner world. The discomfort you avoided did not disappear. It grew, waiting beneath the surface, feeding the unease that pushed you back to the screen again and again. This surrender went unnoticed because it was collective. When everyone around you behaves the same, abnormality becomes the new normal. You stopped questioning the constant presence of your device because it became an extension of your body, an inseparable part of daily life. Cultural norms shifted, redefining addiction as routine. The line between tool and master blurred until it vanished entirely. Freedom was not taken from you. It was quietly abandoned. And yet, within this harsh reality lies an uncomfortable freedom. Because you gave your attention away, you can reclaim it. The power to reverse the damage remains in your hands, but it requires facing the very discomfort you've spent years avoiding. It demands acknowledging the control you lost and the responsibility you hold to regain it. There is no external savior, no simple solution offered by the very systems that profit from your captivity. The only path forward is through conscious, deliberate action, a process that is neither easy nor comfortable, but entirely possible. The path to reclaiming your mind starts with brutal honesty. You must first admit that you've lost control. Without this admission, no strategy will work. But once you face this truth, you open the door to freedom. The first step is awareness. Begin by tracking your screen time without judgment. See how many hours are consumed daily by social media, endless scrolling, and mindless notifications. Numbers will expose the reality your mind has long ignored. Next, set strict boundaries. Designate specific times for phone use and social media access. For example, allow yourself 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. Outside these windows, keep your phone away. Physically remove it from reach during work, meals, and personal conversations. Create tech-free zones in your home, especially the bedroom. Do not bring your phone into bed. Sleep and digital stimulation are enemies. Reclaim your rest by keeping screens out of your nighttime routine. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Each ping, vibration, or banner is a hook pulling your attention back. Disable everything except critical alerts. The fewer interruptions you experience, the more your mind will learn to focus again. Replace idle scrolling with intentional activities. Read physical books, write in a journal, go for walks without your phone. Allow your brain to experience boredom again. It's in those empty spaces that creativity and deep thought are reborn. Practice digital fasting. Start with 1 day per week where you completely disconnect from social media and non-essential phone use. Over time, increase these periods. Use that time to reconnect with real-world experiences, spend time with loved ones, engage in meaningful conversations, or simply sit in silence and reflect. Rebuild your tolerance for stillness. Meditation can be a powerful tool here. Even 10 minutes a day of silent observation can train your brain to find calm without external stimulation. Finally, audit your content. Unfollow accounts that trigger envy, anger, or anxiety. Curate your digital environment to serve growth, learning, and genuine inspiration. Seek out long-form content that challenges your thinking rather than feeds your impulses. Choose creators, educators, and thinkers who promote depth over dopamine. Your mind will mirror the quality of what you consume. This is not an instant fix. The digital hooks are deep, and the withdrawal is real. But with consistency, discipline, and conscious effort, you can reclaim your mind, your time, and your life. The phone was meant to serve you, not enslave you. The choice to break free starts now. We're sure you've discovered plenty of value, so subscribe now and stay connected.